Hello, I'm Julie Langenkamp-Muenkel. I'm editor-in-chief of informationmanagement.com, and I'm here at TDWI's World Conference in San Diego. I'm joined by Maureen Clarry, who's independent consultant and longtime faculty member at TDWI. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
Now, Maureen, you teach a class here on power, politics, and partnership, and how the path to a more agile organization.
Right.
It's so important. Focusing on the partnership aspect of that for a moment, it's so important for business and IT to collaborate and work together and form a partnership there. How does Agile help bridge that gap and overcome some of the traditional obstacles, or bridge the gap of that relationship?
Right. So one of the key components of Agile methodology is collaboration between business and IT. And in our class, which is probably one of the more unusual classes here at TDWI, we help people see some of the organizational challenges that occur in the organization as far as silos. So it's a little bit different in that it's an experiential class, and we create an organization among the people in the room. And then there's not a lot of lecture, but we debrief their experience of playing these different roles in the organization and then help them see some of those obstacles and teach them strategies how to overcome some of the barriers to creating collaboration.
Interesting. So it's a kind of mock hands-on experience is what you're creating there.
Right, right. So first of all, it's a lot of fun, and second of all, it generally has a pretty big impact for people.
Sure. So it provides, I'd imagine that it provides practical, take-home tactical skills that they can use then.
Right, and a lot of the key component is that it creates an awareness of sometimes we take things personally when it comes to creating partnership, or when there's a lack of partnership, we take it personally. And in reality, there are these systemic influences that sometimes preclude us from creating partnerships. So if we can kind of see those and then look at ways to overcome them, then we have a much better chance of creating partnership.
Okay, and just, not that I want you to go through your whole course by any stretch of the imagination, but if you have a couple of tips for fostering that kind of partnership, what can you recommend?
Generally, if you look at specifically the relationship between business and IT, it's kind of a provider-customer relationship. And systemically, the pattern that frequently develops, and we don't always see it, and it's not all the time and not every time, but on a pretty regular basis, the pattern that develops is the customer kind of becomes a little bit aloof from the process, and all the burden falls on the provider to do things. And so there's kind of two parts of that. One is we're trying to get the customers more engaged, and in some ways we're trying to get the providers to kind of take on less responsibility and share more of the responsibility with the customer. And that doesn't come naturally, so that's kind of the idea.
Okay, and then other than projects going smoothly, which is obviously always the goal, how do you know whether you, what kind of progress you've made in terms of fostering that partnership, when the partnership has legs of its own? How can you tell when that's happening?
Well, generally you're making more progress, and generally there's a better relationship there, and more is getting done. So essentially, that's kind of the key component.
And what kind of work do you need to do once you've reached that stage to continue to foster that relationship? I'd imagine that without ongoing maintenance, it could easily deteriorate if people aren't continually focused on it.
Right. And so in some ways what's happening is that there's probably a better understanding of each other's roles. So customers probably understand more about what it takes to actually deliver BI solutions, and the IT team probably has a better understanding of some of the obstacles or some of the challenges that the customer is up against as far as decision making and what they're trying to accomplish. So in some ways it's kind of more empathy for each other and a better understanding of their roles.
Okay, and obviously the goal then, the big picture goal would be providing value to the organization. Do you feel like you still need to educate people that is really the ultimate goal that everybody's working for, or do people recognize that and they're more willing to put aside some of the political nature, or political tendencies and things like that? Yeah,
I'd say in organizations there's a tendency, because we create hierarchies, there's a necessity to create a hierarchy so that you can get work accomplished. But what happens when that occurs is that there becomes kind of a vertical focus in an organization. So departmentally, people, first of all and foremost, focus on their vertical goals, what they have to accomplish, and they don't look sideways, so to speak, as what needs to get accomplished for the enterprise. And so that's another pattern that we discuss in the class, is how to kind of become more horizontally focused and look at what's best for the enterprise and not just for my department.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I hope your course goes well tomorrow as you
Thanks.
teach it, and thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
I'm Julie Langenkamp-Muenkel, live from TDWI in San Diego.